Hi, welcome back to Beginning Java Programming with Segfault. And today we're going to talk about just simple data types. And my wife's laughing at me. Anyway, so she threw me off. Okay, so I think I was thinking about this a few minutes ago. I think what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start leaving a couple of resources up top and in a comment line. And I'll explain what comment lines are in a little bit, but basically the code will ignore anything in a comment line. But I think I'm going to start leaving some resources up here every time I make a video, just with some helpful maybe websites, programs, things that may help you understand things better. And also always be at the top. I may not always explain them, but I'll try to add them in. Anyway, so basically today we're talking about data types. And data types are, you can think of them sort of like storage containers for data and the different types of storage containers. And you may have, a milk jug would hold liquids, and a cardboard box may hold something, like a alternator or something, and you couldn't really put an alternator in a milk jug, and if you put milk in a cardboard box, it would kind of leak out, and it doesn't quite work that way with programming, but there are containers for different things, is basically what I'm trying to say. And so I found this website here. Oracle has all sorts of cool resources, so that's the link I put on there. And it gives kind of a basic explanation of what different data types are. And stuff like overflow and whatnot is a little complicated. I'm not sure if we'll get into that in this series, but basically different data types have different sizes and they can hold different size numbers. It's all based on binary, and I may get into that later, or if you're interested, maybe post a comment and I'll make a separate video series with more of the engineering side of programming and software design and electrical engineering stuff a little bit later. But right now I think we're just going to get into just some programming, basic programming. And there's also default values for when you what's called instantiate, basically container or data type. Then you have to name them. And there's data type literals, and we'll get into all that sort of stuff a little bit later, but I just kind of want to give you an idea of what's out there. And this website's a pretty good resource, and there's a ton of other good resources too. There's a lot of Java books and stuff that explain a lot of these sort of things. And anyway, so that's different types of data types. And we're going to talk about first the first three main types of data types, and also we're going to talk a little bit more about structuring your class. Now, there's different, if you ever are a programmer in the industry, there's different ways every company or your employer will want you to format your programs. But in this one, we're going to do just some basic the basic Java standards. And so how that starts out is you have your what's called member variables, and these are named data types. And then you would have constructor, and then you'd have your methods, with main being first. And there's more things you can add. It gets kind of complicated with inner classes and whatnot later, but these are just your basic starting point with building a class. And your member variables are like your storage containers. And remember, last time what we did is we did a system.out.print, print, right? Oh, dang, there we go. And we did hello world, right? Your first program. Well, there's some problems with that. You can do this, and that's fine. But what if you wanted to print hello world 10 times, right? You'd have to copy, right? And then do this 10 times. Or if you really wanted to spend a lot of time, you could just type out the hello world, right? And that would take a lot of time. Well, there's easier ways to do this. You can create a storage container to hold hello world and then print that storage container. And there's three main types of storage containers. There is ints, bools, and floats, and they're a little bit different. But basically, an integer stores an integer number, and a float stores a floating point number. And then there's characters and strings which hold like ASCII characters. And a string holds an array of characters. Like, for example, this, we'll get into what arrays are later, but like hello world, that could be held in one string. But a character array would have to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 spots to hold hello world. And there's different reasons why you want different ones. But that's kind of the difference between those two. And then there's bool values. And Boolean values are 0 and 1, yes or no, true or false. That's it. and 0 being false and 1 being true. So those are the 3 main types. So what we'll do is we'll what's called instantiate some of these. Okay, we're going to create them. So what you do is you say what type it is. Like for example, Boolean value. You say Boolean, and you'll notice it turns purple. It tells you it's a keyword. So another thing too is you can't name anything with keywords, and we'll get to that in just a second. So you have a Boolean, right, and then you have to name it. So you say a Boolean data type and name it maybe, test, right? And then semicolon to end a statement. Everything you do in Java, anything that you write out on a line is called statement, and you always end that with a semicolon. That's how you end statements. So that's how the computer knows that you're done with that statement. Because there's some times where you have really long lines and you may have 3 or 4 lines of stuff, and the computer wouldn't know. Well, let's call it the compiler, but we'll just call it the computer for right now. Wouldn't know where to stop, and the semicolon tells it where to stop. Some programming languages and stuff don't have that shell scripts and whatnot. Don't do it that way, but that's how it's done in Java, right? So there's Boolean test, right, and we'll make an integer. Int, we'll name it integer, right? And then we'll do a string, and we'll say word. Okay. Now you have created 3 storage containers. There's nothing in them. Remember earlier I mentioned what their default values are. So the integer would be a 0. The string is a null, and null just means there's nothing in it. And the Boolean value, default Boolean value is false, or 0. Okay. So what would happen if you printed these out? Well, let's find out. So you printed out your test, right? And then you printed out your I, right? And then you printed out your word. You'll notice it has a red line. It says, wait a minute, what's going on here? Cannot make a static reference to a non-static field test. And so you're like, wait a minute, I created these here, why can't I access them? What's going on here? And the reason behind that is in Java, it's an object-oriented language, and unless something is open to getting access to, you can't grab it. So you can just say use the keyword we used earlier, public, right? Public. 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 There we go. You notice, hey, wait a minute, it's still not working. I made it public, why won't I access it? And that's because it's not static. And that's the word I was going to tell you about later. Static means it's open to every member of this class. So if you add static to it, so static, right? Static. Static. That means it's the same. So no matter how many classes you make, we'll get to that creating classes and stuff and constructors and stuff later, it'll always be available. Okay? So that's how you make it available. I mean, this is not the right way to do it, but this is just the way we're going to do it right now, just to kind of get you used to data types, variables, and these storage containers and these sort of things, right? So you would hit Control S to save and Control F11 to run, and it runs down here and it says false, right, 0, and then null. If you go back to primitive data types, the test is a Boolean value, the I is an int, and the string is a word. So you go back to here and you say, oh, string null, so false, 0, null, just like I said, right? All right, cool. So what if you wanted to add a value to that? Well, in Java, you never want to add any values to anything in your member variables. So what you could do is you could say something like equals 0, or equals 1, right? And then you'd say Control S and Control 11. And it would say, yep, there's 1. So it assigned 1 to this value. Well, you don't really want to do that in Java. That's not very object-oriented. But since we're just doing some procedural programming, right, we're just going to do it for right now. And what we're going to actually do is we're going to actually make variables in the public main for a little while. Even though it's not something you would normally do, we're going to do it just until we get to more of the classes and functions and the other sort of things for right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of these here. Actually, we can just copy them. Right. put them in here. And then get rid of the public static. There. Okay. Oh, did I do that? Wait, did I do that right? Oh, I messed that up. It should work. Why isn't it working? Did I miss something? Full and string. Okay. Oh, no, that's it. No, initialize. That's right. Why it was working earlier is if you don't create a constructor, the class will create a default constructor, and that will just instantiate the object with its default value, which you saw down there as a false and null. Which, if you had it up here, you'd have to create a constructor. And how you do that is just my first class. You name your constructor the same as the class itself, and then you put close quotes, and then you would just say like test is equal to, I don't know, true or true, right? Or it's a keyword, false, right? And with booleans, you can actually label them as 0 and 1. So 0 is a false, and 1 is a true. Though with booleans, any value above 0 will be a true. So, let's go ahead and actually do that, because I think that we'll just do basic classes right now. And then okay, so test equals 1, right? And then actually let's do true. Let's see here, and then I is equal to 5, and string is equal to. Now, any string object you have to put in quotes, double quotes. So hello, right? And then wow, I did that word. There you go. Word type. There you go. So now these have values in them. Okay, and how you want to get the values to here is you would say, I gotta do that. Just a second. You would say my first class. Oops. And then you give it a name, because it's just like the values here. This is a type, class type. So you name, my first class equals new my first class. And what that does is that runs the constructor. Okay? It runs the constructor and stores everything in the constructor into this object here. This object has these values here, and that stores them in here, right? And then how you can access them, public. Instead of doing a static value, you can just do public. Oops. Public. And what you can do, what is going on here? And then mfc.test. There. And now it pulls out of this object here, it pulls a test object out of there. Now, if this is private, it wouldn't do it. It's like if you say, we'll get to the private and public a little bit more later, and that's more object stuff, why you'd want to make it private. But private, right? Now you notice it won't. Well, I shouldn't let it do it. Oh, I'm sorry. It's a member of this. If this function tried to pull it outside, it wouldn't, because it's private. But because this class, it's a member of this class, it can actually do it. It has access to it, regardless of private or public. And then you do mfc dot, right? All right, and then you compile it, Control S, and then run it, Control 11, and then you'll see true 5 hello, just like we did up here. This constructor here. So there's a basic explanation of classes, data types, kind of a little bit how the main works, and so thank you for watching, and if you have any more questions, please post and comment, and if you like this video, please like it and comment. Thank you for watching.